Hey, what's up? It's Big Al here, V101.1. We are in the Firehouse, Sacramento Metro Fire, and we are at station what?
105.
105, and I have actually a fire person with me here. She is the boss. She's the boss here. Your name?
Michelle Item.
Okay, Michelle, and I got a couple questions I want to ask you about. I'm very fascinated about how you guys set up and go to the call and everything else. What's the most rewarding part of doing this job?
I think for me, and every person is probably completely different, for me it would be that when someone calls 911, it's their emergency, whatever it may be at that moment, whether it's a fire in their house or a medical problem or a vehicle accident, whatever. When someone calls, it's an emergency to them, and we get to be a part of solving that problem for them and making that emergency less of an emergency. So that's cool. It's very rewarding because of that.
Kind of that sense of security as soon as they see the truck coming around the corner, they know things are going to be okay.
Absolutely. People just seem to have a response where they can kind of breathe a sigh of relief and go, hey, someone's coming that's going to try and solve my problem.
So obviously, to work this equipment and to do what you guys do, there's a lot of training involved. Talk briefly about like the training process. How does one qualify to become a firefighter?
To qualify to begin to start the process is there's all sorts of requirements that have to be met. For us here at Metro Fire, we hire paramedics. And you go through, once you get hired, you go through an academy. You've had to test before that to make sure you have some physical agility to a certain level. Then we go through an academy, and for myself, it was a 16-week academy every day, and physically it's grueling, and you repeat the same skills over and over and over. So when we're doing something on a fire and a real emergency, it's so second nature because we've done it a zillion times during the academy and constantly thereafter.
It's just a clockwork by the time you guys are done. But doing the real call, it's like just no problem, we're on it.
That's the plan, that's the design of it.
And there you go. So, talk about like things, talk about certain things on the job that maybe someone wouldn't know about just outside of the fire department community. What do you guys do that they don't know about?
There's a whole bunch of things that we do that I think most people think that we might go on fires and help people with medical aids, or with medical problems, but that's about the extent of it. Whereas in reality, there's a huge amount of other things we do. We have a hazmat unit who will deal with any hazardous materials. We have air ops, we have 2 helicopters that will help us on fires. They can transport patients if we absolutely need that. We have boat operations. We have just our basic engine will do more than just fight a fire. They go on medical aids. They will get up and check things on the roof. They change smoke detectors. So I think part of it is that there's a million aspects that people don't know about, and even going to schools and helping educate people to explain about fire safety, about water safety, river safety during the right season, how to not burn your house down at Christmas with a Christmas tree that's dried up. So part of it is just being it's called an all-risk fire department. We do anything that you can think of, we try to be there for.
Okay. So now, obviously we see on TV, when the big fires happen, whether it's a big house fire or a forest fire. So we know about the major challenging parts of the job. You see it every day. That's why we're so grateful you guys are doing what you do. What's the least challenging, like one of the get the cat out of the tree type of calls you guys were on? What was wow, why did I have to go to this one?
I don't know, but your cat out of a tree one, those are actually, they can be, as funny as it sounds, when there's an angry, scared cat up at the top of the tree, they can be nasty and slicing away at you. So as funny as that seems that they're really the easy calls, sometimes those are, you're on a ladder, it's got a whole lot more risk than you would imagine. Sometimes the cat's sweet and jumps into your arms, but not always. So I think probably, I can't even think of what would be the least challenging off the top of my head. Other than, I got nothing actually.
It's all challenging. It's always challenging.
Not to say that it's all challenging every second, but sometimes, you've been on the same type of call, whether it's a chest pain or a difficulty breathing, and every little part of it, like this patient might be just a little bit different than the last one before. So you've seen the same medical complaint, but every person is different, so every time you're in that situation, you actually have to rethink it. So I don't want to say every moment is an extreme challenge, but every moment you've got to be on your game.
Yeah, I was just going to say you have to be on your guard no matter what the call is.
Absolutely, because it can change like that, and you've got to be ready to at least, in the back of your mind, have your plan B going already.
Well, that kind of reminds me of something. How do you, in your experience, I know each person has a different way of doing it, but how do you stay calm under pressure?
I think by remembering to take a deep breath, and if you've trained in what you're doing, whether it's on the medical side or on a fire, if you've trained enough and you are comfortable because you've done the same thing a million times, that makes it so that you can keep your calm. I mean, sometimes you have to remind yourself to calm down, take a breath. But generally, if it's something that you've seen before at least once, you can pull back on that experience, kind of reach into your toolbox and have something to fall back on.
And I do have to apologize because I was saying fireman, firewoman, firefighter. That's not the correct way to say it. I don't want to misrepresent you guys. You know?
It's okay, either one.
Okay, well, talk about how do you get acclimated to the firefighter lifestyle? You mentioned a little bit off camera that some of you guys live here for most of the time. So talk about that.
How that works is when we come here, we work for 48 hours straight. So you show up in the morning at about 7:30 and you get off 2 days later. So we live together for that 48 hours in the sense that we eat together, we cook together, we clean the station. As soon as you get here, we clean this thing top to bottom. All the floors get mopped, bathrooms get cleaned, everything. So this becomes your second family. That's part of how you acclimate to it. We spend holidays together when you're on duty. It's just a rotating schedule. So the days you happen to be here, you're with the same crew. And you do that year after year. So that's part of it. You acclimate. You also have to get used to being able to function on not a lot of sleep. Because if someone calls at 3 in the morning, you need to go and you need to be as on your game as you are at 2 in the afternoon. So there is a little acclimation process for sure.
Yeah, life in the firehouse is pretty much, you gotta be ready at a moment's notice.
You gotta be ready at a moment's notice to be thinking and to be watchful of what's around you. Sometimes if you're going into a violent crime assault or something like that where police have called us in, you've got to be watchful that there's no danger. Especially in our situation, the captain, that's primarily, he's looking for scene safety, but we all are at the same time.
So what's the proudest moment you've had as a firefighter in your career?
Now that's another hard question. I would say probably when something that I did was being part of a team. It was an engine and an ambulance, engine and medic, that we were performing CPR on somebody that had had a heart attack in the middle of a store. And it was, everything that is not ideal. We're in a store, in a mall. It was a hard situation, but we did everything together as a team. We had people on scene that were helping us. And by the end of that day, she walked out of the hospital, or she didn't walk out, she was awake. She did eventually walk out without any deficits whatsoever.
Wow.
So we were able to be a part of bringing her back, and she had no brain damage, no long-term problems whatsoever. And it was amazing to be a part of a crew that could do that. And it was nothing magical on our part. It was us doing our job and doing what we were trained to do. But it was wonderful to actually talk to her afterwards and be a part of her family and the hugs and the tears, and it was beautiful.
So it's more than just you're doing your job and saving a life. You get to see the real life part of the whole thing too, with the victim's family and friends being around them and happy that their life has been saved.
Absolutely, and we see the other side of that too when you get to experience a family's sadness and grief, and it hits us just like it hits anybody else. So there's both sides to that. It's amazing when you get to experience someone's happiness or you deliver a baby and you're a part of that moment. And then it's just as painful and tragic when you are on the other side of it.
Wow, that's powerful stuff, man. How long have you served with Metro Fire, and talk about any other members of your family that have been in public service?
I have been here for almost 8 years. Other members of my family, my husband is a captain here as well at Metro, and my dad is a retired LA sheriff. So, come from a little public safety. All of my brothers were in the military, so I think, ended up doing a lot of public safety, actually, now that I think about it.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. So everybody's been serving one facet or another.
Absolutely, and everyone has been a different fashion.
All right. Last question that we want to ask. I heard one of the firemen said, we call him Big Mike. Explain, and you blushed it. Explain the Big Mike story.
It's the dumbest story ever. That name somehow became a nickname that stuck because it irritated me because I'm not that big, and my name's not Mike, and I'm not a guy named Mike. So because every time they called me Big Mike, I said, it's not funny, that's just stupid. The boys that I work with are generally act like junior high boys, and so they thought it was even funnier because it irritated me. So now, 5 years later, that name is still what I'm called.
So it's kind of like when a big guy is working, they call him tiny, kind of like that.
It's exact thing, and that's why they thought it was so funny.
Oh,
which is why I thought it was so stupid.
Michelle, thank you so much for letting us come to the Firehouse and then sharing some time with us. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to meet you.
V101.1.